FBI today says, all right, well, we've got a couple of suspects. We don't know their names yet, although now CBS News is reporting that they might be close to getting their names, or they maybe perhaps have their names but have not released them. We don't know about that because that's just happening right now. But we do know what they look like because they have got video and they've got pictures of two suspects. Let's hear from the FBI here.
Today, we are enlisting the public's help to identify the two suspects. After a very detailed analysis of photo, video, and other evidence, we are releasing photos of these two suspects. They are identified as Suspect 1 and Suspect 2. They appear to be associated. Suspect 1 is wearing a dark hat. Suspect 2 is wearing a white hat. Suspect 2 set down a backpack at the site of the second explosion just in front of the Forum restaurant.
Keep it real. Immediately, everybody's looking at those pictures going, are they Middle Eastern or are they white? And I've been looking at them all day long. And suspect number 2 with a white hat, he's got kind of a scruffy look there. In the beginning, in one of the shots, it looked like he had a mustache. Like, is that a Middle Eastern mustache or is that a West Virginia mustache? I don't know. Now, the suspect number 1 with the black hat at least is smart enough to put the hat on forward. It's supposed to cover up his face, and it's harder to see him. Now, some are saying he looks darker. I can understand why they're saying that. I don't know if it's a shade from the cap or if he is darker. This idiot has his baseball cap on backwards, thereby defeating the whole point because we can see his face a lot better. It's not covering his face. So those are the two guys, and everybody in the country now looking at those pictures over and over. Obviously, if you're in the Boston area, wondering if you know them, can spot them, can figure out who they are. On that note, let me just say, whatever you do, do not do vigilante justice. Based on these pictures, you are not going to have any certainty whatsoever. Now, you should call the FBI, 1-800-CALL-FBI. If you think you've got a lead on them, absolutely. Don't take action on your own, because there's no way you could be absolutely sure based on those pictures. They can do further investigations and figure out if those guys are really it or not, right? Now, yesterday on the show, I told you I was on Geraldo's radio show. A Southie calls in, and that's what he said he was, and said, we're looking for these guys, and they better hope that the cops get them before we do. You don't know if you got the right guy. Don't take the law into your own hands. Now, coming back to the race issue, come on. Look, I think suspect number 2 in the white hat looks white. That's what everybody's saying. The other guy looks darker. I don't know. Can you tell? JR, Jesus, thoughts?
It's exactly what it looks like. It even looks like the first suspect has glasses on, even. I don't know.
Yeah, right?
So
that's what it looks like.
I mean, you can't see anything.
See, that
yes,
picture?
That's a good shot.
Yeah, he looks like he could totally be white. And could he be a lighter shade of Middle Eastern? Of course he could. I don't know.
These are the things, even when enforcement gets to these guys, I look at these shots, they must have something better than what we get. Because I don't see how you find anybody like this.
Yeah, but you know the thing is, my guess is they don't have anything better than this, otherwise they would have shared it. Because if they're sharing the pictures, that means we don't have them, and we need your help. Now, to us, it might not look like much, but if you knew the guys, then you might say, hey, wait a minute, that looks like Bob. And that's what helps the authorities, but then you got to report it to them. So now, the reason why race is relevant here, of course, is, look, it's going to be a much different reaction in the country. Keep it real if it's white or it's Middle Eastern. David Sirota wrote an article that was very controversial earlier in the week, talking about, he's rooting for them to be white. Now, as we got the pictures, I realized why he was right. Because as I was looking at the pictures, honestly, I was rooting for them to be white. Why? Because, look, if they're white, people aren't going to go on random violent attacks based on stereotyping white people. It's not like they're going to be like, oh, dude, there's a white guy, let's attack him. That's not going to happen in this country because the majority of the country is white. And people get it. You obviously can't make the assumption that just because the Boston bomber was white, that you should attack random white people. Unfortunately, after 9/11, a lot of people made the assumption, since the attackers were Muslim, that we should attack random Muslim people. Now, does that assumption make any sense? Of course not. It's just as dumb as assuming that every white guy's a bomber if these guys turn out to be white. Or let's say they turn out to be right-wingers. Can you make the assumption that you should attack every right-winger? How stupid is that? Obviously, you can't do that. These are extremists no matter what their politics is and no matter what their ideology or nationality or race is. But unfortunately, when it comes to Muslims in this country, people do make assumptions. Oftentimes they make the wrong assumptions. After 9/11, and it still continues to this day, a lot of Sikhs were attacked, even though they're not Muslim, but they got a turban on, so they get attacked. There was a shooting at the Sikh temple. People are still that dumb this late in the process. So I couldn't help but say, hey, you know what, man, I hope they're not Middle Eastern, because we know what happens when they're Middle Eastern, and it hasn't been pretty. Whereas the people are not going to make ugly stereotypes about white people in this country. So that's part of the reasoning behind it, and I'm being honest about it. Now, do I know who they are? Of course I don't. I don't know if they're white, they're Middle Eastern, what their nationality, or what their ideology is. But I sure hope the authorities get them, because I'm also worried that it's been a couple of days now. If they planned this well, and they planned it well ahead of time, they obviously should have had an escape route. And if we didn't get them in a couple of days, and if they were foreigners, and even if they're not foreigners, they could be long gone. God knows where they are, right? If we have a name, we might be able to track them down better. But unless they're incredibly stupid, which is entirely possible, they wouldn't be anywhere near the Boston area now. Now, on the other hand, we've seen time and time again, where's the guy you're looking for? Right next to you. It happened with Christopher Dorner. It happened all the way back in the day with Andrew Cunanan. He killed Versace in Miami. And they're like, oh, my God, where is he? Is he in Arizona? Is he in Arkansas? No, it turned out he was a couple blocks down the street in Miami, right? So we don't know yet, but with the whole country's hoping we find him, no matter what their ideology or their race is.